Awesome. Well, hi everyone, and welcome to our tree subcommittee for Stockton. My name is Stephanie, and I work at the Valley Air District, and I'm the liaison for the Stockton community. Really quickly, I did just want, for transparency, to introduce the folks that are here from the district, and then also just go over some quick housekeeping. Again, my name is Stephanie, and then I have from our district team, David Lopez, C. Tao, and Catherine Tao, who all work on this urban greening and vegetative barriers program. The couple of quick things I wanted to talk about for logistics is, as you're speaking, if you could please introduce yourself before your comment to help assist with our interpretation. And also just kind of along with our meeting etiquette, we will take public comment at the end of the meeting. And just to set up some kind of context for where we've been and where we're going now, I think a lot of the people on this call have been with us for, through this whole journey. And just go ahead, Doug.
I'd like to introduce myself. My name is Douglas Vigil, and I'm a resident in Stockton, and I've been really heavily involved with different boards. So on the San Joaquin County Board of Education, I've been on the Behavioral Health Board. I've been on the Juvenile Probation Commission, and also the American Council with Disability. So and also a proud LGBT community, I guess, So anyway, I'm still more concerned about my environment with the truck route. That's where it goes, because I have a lot of heavy going to my house a lot, and still fighting. I don't want to fight in front of my house, especially when I'm living with my family. I don't want to put them in danger while I'm trying to change the route from the truck route. So that was my big concern. So that's why I'm part of this committee. So, and that's what my interests are, very heavy on that. Thank you.
Awesome. Thank you, Douglas. This is Stephanie. I'm wondering, and just in the interest, I do see some new faces here, especially kind of ones that are related to the project. I think, Doug, that's a good reminder. I'm wondering if we just do a quick round of introductions. I know we talked about district staff, but maybe we'll go through this group and just, if you want to quickly say your name and affiliation. And then I want to make sure we also get through the presentation as well. So we can go ahead and keep this quick. Maybe I'll pass to the next person on my screen after Douglas, which is Ned. We can't hear you, Ned. Okay, you're unmuted. This is Ned Leba. And I think while he's getting his mic fixed, we'll pass it on to Matt.
Thanks, Stephanie. Matt Holmes. I'm here with Little Manila Rising. I'm a member of the Community Steering Committee and a resident of the AB 617 study area. Got to go through the whole process of working on the CERP and helped organize some of the early trees subcommittee meetings until sort of the end when we handed off to our district staff, and had the privilege of working with Nicholas Tamayo and my crew doing a really cool repertory urban forestry project where we're hiring formerly incarcerated returning citizens and training them to be community stewards. So this project has a real opportunity to grow that work.
Ned, do you think maybe we'll pass back to you?
Can you hear me now? You can hear me. Okay, I'm Ned Leba. I'm a resident. I'm on the steering committee, and I'm very interested in urban greening and vegetative barriers. I think it's a really wonderful project. Thank you.
Since it's a new crew, why don't I introduce everybody that came with us? And
yeah, that would be awesome.
Hasn't been around quite as much as me. I'll introduce our urban forestry manager, Nicholas Tamayo. Well, I said all the things you're supposed to say, didn't I?
Yeah, if you could just give my bio, that would be great.
Yeah, totally.
Hi everyone. I'm Nicholas Tamayo. I am the program manager for the urban forestry renovation project at Little Manila Rising. And I will have the pleasure and challenge of completing the AB 617 urban greening and vegetative barrier projects should you award it to us. So thank you very much. And I'll pass that off to James.
Hey guys, I'm James from HiFi Design Lab. Definitely very grateful that you guys have invited us to be here, and we have a ton of experience with air quality projects, both in California and the US. Yeah, just excited to be here, and you know, like Matt said, we've got a little presentation we can share with you guys.
And maybe we can go to May next.
And yeah, I guess I can hand it off to Fletch, who's part of our team. Yep.
Thanks. I'm Fletch. I'm with the HiFi Design Lab. I'm a scientist. I'm interested in the health and air quality benefits of.
Or Fletch, are you there? Do you want to introduce yourself?
Oh, can you hear me?
I can hear you, bud. I think maybe James has a spotty connection.
Great. Okay, thanks. So yeah, I'm a scientist. I'm interested in the health and air quality benefits of vegetation and roadside buffers in particular. And I'll hand it off to May.
Hi, everyone. My name is May. I work with HiFi Design Laboratory as the ecological designer. I design a lot of our vegetative buffers for projects that we do around the country.
I think that's it for us.
Why don't we? Oh, thanks, Matt. I was going to say, I'll just go next down the list. Next person I see is Brian Moore from CARB.
Hey everyone, my name is Brian Moore, and I work at CARB in the Office of Community Air Protection, and I'm just here to help assist where CARB can.
Did they turn off your heater, Brian?
I was out, man, I'm a wimp. I was out moving garbage cans around. I almost missed pickup, you know, with the day off, and I'm just warming back up. I should be good in a little bit. It's cold out here in Sac.
It wouldn't surprise me. CARB loves those power alerts. They made us sweat all summer.
Why don't we have to go ahead and move to Margot?
Hi, I'm Margot Prouse. I'm a resident of the AB 617 area. I sit on the Community Steering Committee. I'm chair of our local Sierra Club here. Thank you.
Thanks, Margot. Mary?
Mary Elizabeth, I'm a scientist here, and I don't like giving money to PG&E, so it is 56 degrees in here. So I walk around with a hat and keep my money in the pocket. PG&E. I'm a scientist too. Nice to hear somebody acknowledge themselves as a scientist. I'm a scientist too.
Thanks, Mary. Cynthia?
Hey folks, Cynthia Pinto Cabrera, she, her with the Central Valley Air Quality Coalition, here representing CVAC on the tree subcommittee and just joining. So excited to see where we're going and here to support Matt and their proposal.
Thanks, Cynthia. Tanisha?
Good afternoon, everybody. My name is Tanisha, and I'm the EJ Program Specialist with Catholic Charities. And I was just interested in the Urban Greening Subcommittee, so it's for the first time. Thank you.
Welcome. And we're also joined by a few public members, so I'll go ahead and pass to Katya and then Miguel.
Oh, hi, Stephanie. Hi, yeah, this is Katya. Yeah, I'm a resident of the 617 area, excuse me. I just dropped everything, sorry. Yeah, a resident in Midtown Stockton, extremely concerned about the urban greening situation in, well, all over Stockton, actually. And we've been gathering data on the number of tree stumps and hotspots in the Midtown area. just very concerned about replanting trees in Stockton, especially in the Midtown Pershing Avenue corridor area. So glad to be here. Thank you.
And my name is Miguel. I'm with Katja, a resident. I'm also a resident in the AB 617 study area. We have a lot of data, like Katja said. We're ready to rock and roll with anything that we can do to provide information to plant trees. We want to get trees in our neighborhood. We want trees on our strips, our park strips. We want them in our parks. We want to get, just we are the worker bees, and so we're ready to rock and roll. We have a social media presence. We have an email database. We have it all. So we just need to know where our direction. We need direction. So I look forward to hearing more.
Thanks, Miguel. And I think that rounds out our group. We of course have our wonderful interpreters, Armando and Kara, joining us as well. With that, I'll go ahead and give us a quick introduction before passing off to our grants team to do their presentation. And I just wanted to remind folks, I think a lot of us in this group, that some people are maybe a little newer, but a lot of folks have been with us for a minute kind of through this process. And I just wanted to kind of give a reminder of where we've been and kind of where we're going here in the future. And that this group has been really active in giving feedback on our project plan, which then went to CARB for approval. Kind of that next phase is we work together to review and provide feedback on the request for proposal. And again, this is the document that went out to solicit an entity to administer this program. And so we discussed this at our last CSC meeting, and that we're happy to share that there was one application submitted for each measure. And really this meeting will be for us to review the proposals that got submitted, and also provide an opportunity for CSC members and public members to ask questions about these proposals, which is why you see so many wonderful folks here. We have Matt at Little Manila Rising, and also Nicholas, and lots of colleagues from HiFi Design. And so with that, I will go ahead and pass it over to our grants team. Oh, and I guess maybe just to kind of discuss just process-wise, I did want to provide some context and just maybe share really the goal for today is, again, that space to discuss the proposals. But should this subcommittee kind of feel confident with these proposals, really the next step is with subcommittee recommendation, we do want to bring this back to the CSC. And so as the meeting is progressing, I'll kind of bring that back up at the end of the meeting, but that will be really the goal is we're looking to see if this group is supportive of moving forward with these contracts. And with that, I'll go ahead and pass it over to our grants team.
Good afternoon, everyone. My name is Catherine Chow, and I am going to be presenting today. I will just be going over some of the key information from the proposals.
Kat, this is Stephanie. Sorry, I think you're in the presenter view, so we can see the dual screen.
Let's see here. See, you got it?
Okay, how would I do it to where, I'm sorry, to put it into the...
Should be able to push F5, or there's a little play signal somewhere at the top. Yeah, I think if you do from beginning, it should start the presentation on the top left.
Yeah, and I think I have it on my other screen, that's why.
On the other screen, this is Stephanie, there should be like a display setting at your top, and you might have to extend the display.
Oh yeah, that part.
Not finding that, okay.
You guys still paying Microsoft over there, huh?
Steve, you want me to present? I can do it.
Yeah, David, if you can, I just can't get my screen to be working here.
You want to stop your screen?
Oh, maybe I did get it. No, I didn't. Okay, sorry. Okay.
Okay, let me see if I can get mine going here. Sorry. Sure. All right, we got it now?
Looks good.
Again, my name is Catherine Chow, and I will be presenting today. And first of all, we do want to thank everybody for attending today's meeting, as we are very excited to go over some of the key information from the proposals that we received. A little bit of background from the proposals. Again, we did receive one proposal for each of the projects with approximately $1 million. For subcontracting, the city of Stockton and Caltrans will be partnering with Little Manila for the urban greening project. And then we also have Caltrans and Hy-Vee Design Laboratories who will be subcontracting with Little Manila on the vegetative barriers projects. For the projects, they will include working with the community to install trees and vegetative barriers to reduce exposure to emissions and provide several key benefits to the community. Before going into each of the proposals, here are some of the criteria from the RFP that we are looking for, which includes the cost effectiveness, co-benefits, species selections, project readiness, and supporting documents. And for the vegetative barriers, there was also a criteria for the utilization of baseline air monitoring data. For the urban greening proposal, the potential locations would include underplanted areas identified through a greening prioritization plan for the Stockton 8617 community. Planting will occur across many private and public sites, which includes parks, residential, businesses, and roads. And again, the amount for the projects is approximately $1 million. The number of trees will be determined through implementation, and it will focus on protecting sensitive receptors at daycare centers, elementary schools, and assisted living areas.
I hate to interrupt. This is Margot speaking. Could I maybe increase your volume a little bit?
Sure.
Thank you.
For the project information, can you hear me okay, Margot?
Yes, that's better. Thank you.
Okay. So for the project information section, Little Manila Foundation has successfully worked with the city through the Transformative Climate Communities grant programs to plant trees. The urban greening program will help expand the tree planting beyond the TCC grant program, and the property owners partners will agree to long-term care and maintenance. Under the vegetative barriers projects, Little Manila will be looking at several sites, which includes the State Route 4, East Lafayette Street, East Taylor Street, South Garden Avenue. And these locations will include their partnership with Caltrans. The total amount for this project will also be approximately $1 million, which will cover about 67,000 square foot. The number of vegetative barriers will be determined through the implementation process. And again, it will also include sensitive receptors such as daycare centers, elementary schools, and adult day program. Additional sites will be considered under the vegetative barriers projects. The contracted service will include Hy-Vee Design Laboratories, who will provide effectiveness to vegetative barriers design and air filtration, and additional funding will be secured for this project. Those are some of the key highlights from the proposals. We do have Matt and Nicholas, as well as Hy-Vee here, who are the experts in providing more information for these two projects and help answer any questions that you may have.
I can just say, I know Miguel, and I see your question in the chat, so I'll field that if that's cool. So yeah, absolutely. Pershing and Fremont need additional vegetative barriers. They're right at, they really are downwind from I-5. They're just categorically in better condition than the rest of South Stockton. Subscribing to the principles of targeted universalism, we help the neighborhoods that need it the most because that's where the greatest payoff is. But absolutely, if I had all the resources in the world, I'd start at the top left of the map and work my way through the whole city and reforest the whole thing. But even $1 million isn't enough to do everything that we want. And so we're essentially doing demonstration projects that help grow the capacity of communities to plant and maintain their own trees, to garner future awards from the state of California, from the CAL FIRE's Urban and Community Forestry Program, partnerships with the U.S. Forest Service, because it'll probably take as many years to replant this forest as it took to neglect it. And so I live in your neighborhood. I know how, we're losing heirloom trees. We're losing, assets of the city of Stockton left and right. And, it really is an important thing to learn about how to maintain that juvenile forest in Midtown and how to maintain our big trees. But, you go south of Main Street, Nico's trying to plant trees and sidewalks that are stamped 1942, 1936. That was the last time they poured concrete down there. And so it's pretty easy to answer why we start where we do. But of course, our intention is to address the forestry needs everywhere that we work, certainly within the study area. But, and Nico can tell you how frustrating it's been to be restrained to the transformative climate communities map, which is this weird sort of Baltic cutout that maximizes residential areas, and not to be able to help commercial areas and help industrial areas and reach across the channel and north of Main Street. And so this award lets us do that. And so this is really our opportunity to spend some time and money on getting to know the challenges in Midtown, scoping, out a strategy there with you residents, and finding the funding to really do the landscape scale restoration work that you and I both know that we need. But at least we get to get started in Midtown with this grant, whereas before we were barred from it by contract. So it's not perfect, but it's a start. Margo, I see your hands.
Yeah.
Anybody from the team, if you guys want to jump in, just come off mute. Good God, we can have a conversation.
I was wondering if we have access to the actual RFP, just for details. It's, for instance, you listed locations, and I couldn't tell if that was an area or if those were particular streets that were going to be focused on. Can you talk a little bit about those 4 streets that were mentioned, that area?
Maybe this is an opportunity to share a map, Nico.
Yeah, I will. I'm gonna
We
drop
have a presentation
the,
too that we can share.
I'm gonna drop the link to a working map that is sort of in the process of being closed out. We're moving everything to a tree planting software, so it looks a lot more messy than it should, but it'll give you an idea of some of the locations that we've either scouted out or are hoping to scout out for vegetative barriers. And then obviously some of the broader, bigger locations are where we're hoping to put trees from AB 617 on people's property in street tree wells and planting strips. And you guys can look through the legend. Anything labeled potential VB is a site that we're going to be looking at on the ground with HIFI to figure out if that's a spot that we can work with. And I also wanted to answer Miguel's follow-up question about what the Fremont neighborhood will be getting out of our proposal. And that's just a lot more time. Like Matt said, we haven't been able to work in that neighborhood through TCC, but we plant, on street wells. And I know that there are a ton of heirloom trees and historical trees that have definitely been, destroyed by this most recent storm. So we've been able to carve out a nice little partnership with the city to address tree stumps and trees that have fallen over and get trees replaced sort of on a quick timeline. So that's what I think we're really looking at for that particular neighborhood and a lot of the other neighborhoods that we haven't been able to work in through our current grants.
I see Douglas's hand. Go ahead.
Yeah, my bigger concern is that whoever who was speaking about the trees, about the the brook, but I would like to know if have they talked to the city regarding how they're gonna maintain it and how they're gonna able to decide what kind of tree are gonna be there, because you know there's some trees that leave a lot of sap, and it goes to the sidewalk when it's really hot, and then people pedestrians walk over it in the sidewalk, and it gets really sticky. And then when you go home, you still have it in your shoes. So I would like to know what kind of tree are you going to be able to put, so we can know what before you even bid on what you're going to put on for the community, because I know they're like a willow tree that tolerates heat. Something named that make the neighborhood look nicer and colorful and all that stuff, that are able to relate to heat, but also need to be maintained as well.
Yeah, well, we only plant pretty trees, and we only plant off the city's list. And a lot of the trees that have those offending characteristics that you talk about are wildcat trees. You know, people planting willows in a streetscape, that's not where that tree goes. That tree should be hanging over the water. So we comport to the city's tree list, and we help them rethink it and refine it based on feedback from residents, and really new science coming out of, you know, the University of California is a part of all the state's projects. And there's a study called the 2100 list, and so it projects Stockton's average annual temperature. And I hate to say, guys, but by 2050, we're going to be like as hot as Barstow. So we need to be planting trees that thrive in Barstow right now, with the exception of trees that shelter our homes are worth a little extra water. Trees that shelter our children in parks are worth a little extra water. These trees do far more than they cost in the maintenance. And you know, we follow the city's lead on that, and we still try to work with them to refine that and make it a better list.
All right, thank you. Well, that's good. That's wonderful, Matt. That's really great that you're on top of that. And that's all that clarified a lot of my concerns. Great, thank you so much.
And I'm talking like urban greening. The vegetative barriers thing is a totally different science. It has to do with the surface area of a tree and how much particulate it can knock down.
Okay.
And if it, you know, that it's an evergreen tree that knocks down particulate all year. So it's not, you know, these aren't the things that you really put south of your house and shade you out in the winter. We're planting specific trees that have been proven to absorb more particulate matter than other trees when we're putting them near emission sources like freeways.
What about iceberg? I know that they have a lot of iceberg on the freeway where, you know, when it's heated, it's still
ice plant.
Yes.
Yeah, that little ice plant that goes wherever the U.S. Army goes, and sometimes Caltrans.
Oh, wonderful. Okay.
Yeah, it's a weird little plant. If you want a lot of rats, you should plant a lot of ice plant.
Oh, really? Okay, I understand what you're saying. Thank you.
Are we missing anything in the chat that somebody wants to elevate? Miguel, you're talking about some data. Well, we proposed in response to the RFP. What data are you talking about?
So we have, along Katja can chime in here too, but we have a data where the neighborhood south of Harding Way, all the way to Fremont Street, to Victory Park, to, I believe it's Baker Street. We have data where we have hot spots, dead trees. We did this in the summertime. We did stumps. We have all that information. We have an Excel document with all the information. And so we're just, you know, wondering what is the next step, you know, how where
you
we step in.
You have a lot of need, and you're still in infinitely better condition than South Stockton. And so it's wildly hotter, and the primary heat pocket is in the Homestead, you know, sort of south of El Dorado. And so, you know, these are equity grants. And so we go to the places that are far worse off. And, you know, there is such a thing as a racist sidewalk. White folks got bigger ones that could hold the tree for a long time. Working class neighborhoods, they weren't built for them. They were just there to sleep and go to work for somebody else. So they're too narrow, can't accommodate a tree. And that's why, you know, trees didn't last as long there. and also because they were politically impoverished neighborhoods, the city didn't bother to maintain them. And that was something Doug asked that I don't think I answered adequately. We have an agreement to maintain these trees. The city always had an obligation to maintain its infrastructure. Letting trees die in South Stockton was never acceptable. But still, we are weaving this program together with our workforce development program. So there's additional funding in there to help train formerly incarcerated people who have a hard time getting a job. And we bring them home and give them a dignified job that inspires them, so that they're a part of saving their own neighborhood, earning a respectful wage, and being really brought back into society instead of what too often happens when they're held out and they're not allowed to rejoin society. So, most days I like to say we only happen to plant trees, but our landscape architects and designers are here and they love trees. But I love the people that work for Nico. And so he's been out there running really innovative workforce development programs with some of the most vulnerable people in our community. And these jobs are the jobs that are keeping people out of Mormon Slough. These are the jobs that for people that can't get a job anywhere else. And because we have a unique cultural capacity at Little Manila to understand where people come from, we're that first step on their path back to gainful employment and sustainable earned income.
I'm confused, Matt. It sounds like that there's more. Is there like I'm confused. I'm like confused way a lot right now. Is it because do you live in this neighborhood? Is there a conflict of interest? Or also why, I mean, I know there's a lot of need for South Stockton, but AB 617 reaches all the way up to Harding Way.
For sure. And we'll absolutely serve that neighborhood.
I just understand is that how, I see a lot of focus for South Stockton. Yes, I understand, but it's just not making, I'm not getting clarity here as in what is it that's going to happen in the neighborhood that we reside on. Katya and I are just, curious to know what, and you live in this neighborhood too. And
well, we weren't allowed to work in that neighborhood by our contract with the city until now. And so this lets us grow connections in your neighborhood and understand your forestry challenges. And because I live there, I know that Midtown has different problems than South Stockton. South Stockton's denuded, right? It's exposed to space. You have huge gray infrastructure problems in Midtown. You see the sidewalks popping everywhere, the high crowns, the streets sinking. Many of those streets are slated for major utility replacement. At least that's what I've been told for the last 10 years. Ned, I see you smiling. I think you've heard that too. And so it doesn't make sense to go throw a bunch of capital dollars in forestry down a street that's about to be gutted and replaced. Our city cuts down trees when there's a buckled sidewalk if someone complains. Never mind that it wasn't the tree that buckled the sidewalk, it was the subsiding street that buckled the sidewalk, or the fact that it was poured wrong in the first place. So Midtown, we're excited to be working there. And it is very much saving a healthy forest is just as important. It's almost as important as starting a new forest in a place that never should have lost it. So this is a principle of equity why we start there, but we are absolutely eager to work with Midtown residents because you guys are committed and engaged, and you're the kind of people that can help us do what we really need to do, which is get our municipality to carry out its function. Nico and I don't want to be the city to you. We don't want to solve these problems forever. We want South Stockton residents and Midtown residents to have the political clout to get the infrastructure investment and maintenance that they deserve. And that comes from power. It doesn't come from dollars. But we'll get some dollars first too. I'm sorry, Stephanie, just interrupt me. Somebody shout at me, will you?
No, thanks, Matt. And I'm wondering, I think it's clear that we have a lot. This is Stephanie. I think it's clear that we have a lot of CSC members and also members of the public that are just like so passionate about trees. And I'm wondering from you and your team, for folks of like residents that live in the boundary, for CSC members kind of through these proposals, what are ways that folks can get kind of involved in the projects?
I could go ahead and answer that and answer some of the questions that have popped up in chat. And I think that's through our community planting events and really engaging with us on a deep level to get trees planted on your street, on your block. We're really sort of crowdsourcing and relying on citizen scientists to help us find these locations. We have a small team. We have one person that's focused on our tree adoption program and outreach, and the rest of our staff is focused on workforce development. and getting trees planted in as many locations as possible, as quickly as possible and as correctly as possible. And you know, if we have more community liaisons working with the city and us to address stump issues, you know, they have a 10-year backlog of stumps in the entire city of Stockton. That can't be solved without you folks helping us, you know, prioritize the locations. They're just not going to get to the priorities unless we ask them. That's almost verbatim what they've told me. This is not just an issue that we can solve with these grants, like Matt has said. We can begin to make inroads in the neighborhoods that we haven't been able to work with, and we can continue pushing the city to think a little bit more creatively about what the urban forest can look like in 5 years and 10 years. And we are pushing that conversation with the species that we're asking to plant. And surprisingly, and to their credit, the folks at Public Works have been willing to listen to us. So the question about, are we able to lead the city in this? We absolutely are. We absolutely are able to lead the conversation about what trees get planted and how they get planted, where gray infrastructure is planned for, and even how it's planned for. You know, we're pushing bioswales and wider and longer planting strips in neighborhoods that don't have any sidewalks at all. Those are conversations that we have on a daily basis with the folks at the city. And really, we're just gonna keep on relying on folks in this committee to move that conversation forward.
Yeah, and I just want to say, I see Katya and Doug, but I wanted to check with Ned if you saw my response in the chat. You know, we can always pivot. Air District's not going to make us stick to one vegetative barrier versus another. And for everybody, he asked about Washington Elementary, which is downwind of the largest cluster of stationary sources and a good cluster of mobile sources. And it's certainly an overexposed school. Oh, and what's interesting about both of these proposals is we're pairing it with our Air Resources Board funded and our Department of Justice funded and our UC Berkeley funded air monitoring and public health studies that will actually help us take baseline data and compare it over time after we forest certain neighborhoods. So we help build the research case for the need for investment. And we're doing this at a really good time with really qualified partners at Hyphy Design Labs to really access the Inflation Reduction Act dollars that are going to be coming out of both the Department of Interior, but also really Department of Transportation is going to be that big chunk of money. So Miguel and Katya, we wouldn't have been eligible for those federal grants until we had built our capacity, and TCC helped us get started with a pilot, and AB 617 is going to turn us into, frankly, a badass community forestry crew. But go ahead, Katya.
Oh, hey, thanks, Matt. Yeah. Oh, wait. Am I on here? Can you hear me? Sorry. Yeah, this is Katya. Yeah. Thank you, Matt, for all what you're saying here. Yeah, I think our frustration is more with the city. I know back in May, 4.5 million was designated for trees. Turns out that 4.5 million for trees actually went to gutters and chopping trees down. So you know, where I live in Midtown, but I feel like I'm South Stockton. I don't really want to see you know, a difference brought up that much. I think that we will do well if we can start planting trees somewhere. I think that's what we'll be doing, whether it's this street or that street. Anything south of Harding has been ignored by the city of Stockton for decades.
Yeah, I agree. Most Stocktonians see south of Harding as all one place. And I'd say the description, the difference in description of South Stockton and Midtown isn't just a cultural description. It's, you know, it's a measurable metric of tree canopy cover and tree counts. And so Midtown, even though it needs a lot of attention, is still wildly in better shape than the community south of Main Street and certainly south of Highway 4.
Yeah, I absolutely.
We'll get there. And absolutely, you're right. Like there was $10 million in discretionary funding, and they wanted to like fix Pixie Woods with the cash they found under the couch cushion instead of really fixing Pixie Woods. And then they got what money they could into trees, and they allocated it based on complaints. Now, does everybody here understand how complaints work? Do you have free time? Do you know somebody to call? Right? So that is not an equitable strategy. That's a privileged strategy that expands the gap between communities. And we should be using data like Miguel's talking. The city should be using data like Miguel's talking about, and like we use in South Stockton, where you have satellite scans of California's heat island index, and you can say that this street is hotter than that street. This is a safe route to school. We should prioritize a colonnade of shade trees to help kids get to this school. And that's what HIFI is also helping us do with our research partners, which is to monitor and characterize air pollution and air dispersion, right? Because you put a monitor out, it looks like your monitor's dirty, but that air is blowing to you from somewhere and it's blowing somewhere else. So we're going to generate dispersion models that let us make more educated and informed choices about where we focus our forestry resources from here on out. And we got problems that are so complex. People are interested in Stockton, like HIFI and like the national labs, to see how urban greening can really be fine-tuned and maximize resources. Rich communities don't have to worry about that, right? They just take care of all of it. So I'll just point out that none of us should have to learn any of this, and all the science is a fool's errand. We just don't have power. So we have to collect data to prove that we're worth saving first. And I hate it, but we're also really good at it. And so we're going to do our best within the paradigm that we have. Go ahead, Doug.
Well, that's a lot of information. The only to clarify, I want to, as the liaison, what department will listen from the city? To the city engineer? It's going to be the engineer designer. When we go to the city meeting and we went, hey, I would like to have this tree placed on South Stockton. Who can we not complain to advocate for that particular or write letters? How can we do it? What are the appropriate reach out to? I know the city council vote for it, but as far as the people who does the data of the engineer that take that to the advice from, and the council will vote for that. How are we going to provide your information to them and say, okay, and then they do their research and match their research, and they come to their conclusion? And can we advocate that, hey, we need this type of thing?
You're really painting a pathway that is a part of our program. So Nicholas and partner isn't here, but this is a community engagement project at its core that gets people to understand and value these green infrastructure resources, and to go to their city council and demand equal protection from their city council that other neighborhoods get. Equal protection. And similarly, the state of California doesn't get to let us be hotter and die younger than everyone else either. So the Air Resources Board owes us equal protection under the law, whether or not we have healthy local elections. And so, these are ultimately plant a lot of trees, but hopefully we flip the script and we get a bunch of people to upset the setup and start fighting for first-class treatment in California, in a great American city with plenty of money to take care of its problems. That's what change looks like, and that's what sustainability looks like. You don't want a failed substitute teacher out there leaning on a shovel. I'm not your guy. Right. Because you don't have the resources to do it the right way. And so we're making stone soup. The city's learning about the data. They actually do it. They're scaling up pretty fast. They're looking at creating an office of sustainability in the environment, which we've never had before. Every other city I've ever worked in does. People have been cashing in on the Greenhouse Gas Reduction Fund for over 10 years, 12 years. Stockton got its first invitation to the dance with the first TCG awards that they got. So we're a little bit behind, but we're going to catch up fast on getting the resources that we deserve in the state of California.
Great. Thank you so much. Good. Thank you.
Oh, yeah. Great. Well, we have a second. We actually have a presentation. I see May still here and Fletcher's still here. Did you guys want to queue up? Do you guys have the share function?
Yeah, I do have a share function. And we do have a presentation that does explain some of our process and some of the other projects that we've worked on, if people are interested in hearing about that.
Yeah, and I think that's important context because we're asking for data, we're asking for justifications and prioritizations. And May and I worked in Richmond where after I collected 18 months of PM 2.5 data at 10 meters, we were able to prioritize parts of the Richmond Parkway over parts of the 580 freeway. And we actually had to convince the Natural Resources Agency that they should weight our trees as a better public health benefit and a better climate benefit by planting them where they would disrupt the most PM dispersion from the industrialized west side of town. And so it was a really long, it was a weird grant because we got it. And then they tried to understand what the heck these guys were talking about for about 4 months. And then they finally released the grant. So this is cutting edge stuff. HIFI's right at the working edge of it. And basically we're training some of these governments on how to do their jobs better.
Very exciting news. I just want to this is Stephanie. I want to keep an eye on time. We have about 10 minutes left in the meeting and we want to leave a few minutes to maybe wrap up. So I'm not sure how long the presentation is. If it's more than 10 minutes, if maybe you want to give your big highlights for this group, that way we have time to digest and ask a few questions, that would be great.
Yeah, sure. Well, usually this presentation takes about 20 minutes. So maybe I can give some overview of some parts of it in I guess around 5 minutes. Okay, let's see. Let me just share my screen. Okay, can everyone see my screen right now?
Yes.
Okay, great. All right, so I guess I just want to give a brief introduction to our evidence-based design framework and kind of explain how we gather data that informs our designs. And so we have been working with a group in West Oakland, with Margaret Gordon, who's the co-creator of the West Oakland Environmental Indicators Project. And so her group has been working with the Bay Area Air Quality Management District to collect hyper-local air quality data. And so that work has not only revealed that there were huge differences in air quality from block to block, but also how polluted the air in West Oakland is as a result of railway, port, freeways, and truck traffic. And so they worked with the community to create 89 solutions that they wanted to see implemented in West Oakland. And so the Adapt Oakland website that we've created has a lot of layers that you can interact with. So simultaneously, as this was being worked on with the community, HIFI was working on creating a green infrastructure master plan for West Oakland. And so Adapt Oakland offers not only a greening plan, but a framework for tracking success in improving health, our neighborhood, and our environment. And so I'm going to give a quick overview of that framework. And so step one of the adapted management framework is the analysis of existing conditions, including land use, stakeholders, ecology, and environmental conditions. And so when we look at the data, we can see there's a disproportionate exposure. The Pacific Research Institute found that children living in West Oakland are hospitalized 12 times as much as children in suburbs, as close as 10 miles away, citing air quality and health risks living between 3 highly trafficked highways and one of the nation's busiest ports. So we can use analysis to create prioritization for action. So for example, here we're comparing businesses and residents, which is in yellow and orange, and then we're overlaying that with a 500-foot setback from major roads. And so that's going to be where there's going to be major spikes in air pollution. And so that overlay allows us to prioritize our efforts. And we can compare this to the location of existing trees, which allows us to further focus our efforts where the canopy is limited. And so from analysis, we create design recommendations. So on Adapt Oakland website, you can see there's a series of design recommendations and adaptation strategies that apply to different urban and land typologies across West Oakland. This is a typology of general land class classifications. And so near freeways, we've recommended planting vegetative buffers as mitigation banks for air filtration, stormwater treatment, flooding, and habitat. And then near residence and commercial areas close to roadways, we recommend using a combination of flow-through planters, permeable pavers, bioswales, and vegetative buffers to treat water and block pollution. And so after the design stage comes like implementation. So in West Oakland, we have several projects that are in the implementation stage. So as I mentioned, there are these like 89 strategies that the West Oakland Community Action Plan came up with. And so we are getting grants in West Oakland and attempting to implement some of these strategies, kind of like the ones you guys are doing in Stockton. So here are some of the specific zones that were chosen by AB 617 to be the highest priority. Similarly, in Stockton, you have zones that have been chosen. And so we are currently in the process of working to specifically implement projects that will use strategies from the Community Action Plan in these specific impact zones. And so I can go into a little bit more detail about some of those projects if you guys want me to, if we have time. But after implementation, we move on to monitoring the results. And so the Adapt Oakland Plan selected adaptation strategies based on their observed efficacy in existing installations and studies. And so the expected benefits to ecosystems and community were then calculated through computer models. And in the monitoring phase, these models will be tested against reality by monitoring the performance of green infrastructure installations over time. And so the installation of air quality sensors allows for monitoring data over long periods of time. And the comparison of modeled versus monitored data can then be evaluated. And based on how it's evaluated, strategies can be improved and adapted over time. And so that's why this framework is more of like an iterative cycle. And so we've also been doing a lot of work to advance our measuring tools and to, I have a couple examples of specific projects we've worked on, but I just want to time check really quick to see if we need to wrap up or not.
May, this is Stephanie. I'd love to leave time for any questions we have now, but I'm wondering if you have any materials or presentations you feel comfortable sharing. We'd love to just get this out to the group. That way, maybe they can take a look on their own time and kind of digest everything.
Yeah, for sure. Let me, yes, I have this presentation and there's a ton of information in it. So
perfect.
Okay. Yeah, I can also answer questions. I unfortunately was not looking at the chat because I was presenting, but.
Oh, I was just on a soapbox. You didn't miss a thing. But if you need help, if you need time to go through your presentation, you can always send it to me when you're ready and I can send it to the rest of the committee.
Okay, great.
Does anyone have any questions on what May just presented or any other follow-up questions about what you kind of saw for the proposals for urban greening or vegetative barriers? I see Ned's hand.
Can you hear me?
Yes.
Yeah, I just hope for our next meeting. I mean, we have tree planting and vegetative barriers within AB 617, and they're slightly different. I mean, I think they're both very good, but I think we need to structure the presentation. We need a little more information. We should be able to see the actual written responses to the RFPs. And if I put into the chat, to me, there's sort of unambiguous good from trees and vegetative barriers, but we have to go beyond that. We need to see what the monitors show exposure to human beings inside classrooms, outside classrooms, to the criteria pollutants, okay? And then we hope to see improvement from vegetative barriers, probably a little bit less so trees, but we really need to make this scientific enterprise that shows there's definite benefits, including health benefits. And I know there was some discussions about difficulties with SUSD, but our last AB 617 meeting seemed to show there was cooperation. So Washington School, and indeed, I would say we prioritize, the elementary schools. Those are important issues, childhood asthma, etc. So I'm hoping that going forward, we will have better, more specifics, better data, make sure this really is well designed to yield benefits. Thank you.
Yeah, Ned, you're on the same track we are. I mean, proving that we're knocking down pollution before it gets into a home, you got to be in that home. And luckily, Little Manila is in contracts with UC Merced and UC Berkeley, collecting urine samples indoors, collecting indoor and outdoor air quality at the same time. These are analyzed by occupational safety experts, not by me, thank God. And HiFi Design Labs has done plenty of its own exposure studies and dispersion modeling. But we're at the beginning of this science in Stockton. But no one can give you that. But no one can give you that history or that baseline because it doesn't exist because the air district never monitored air pollution.
Can you hear me?
Yeah.
Okay, we need this. It's been asked for many times. We really need to see it. We need to see in the specific response to the RFPs. This is what's going to happen. I haven't seen the specific response. It seems like we're making some progress here. I think our next meeting should have more of those specifics if possible.
We'd love to share those too. We've got a Prezi on, all the health research that HiFi's done out in Kentucky, and we can bring in the Office of Environmental Health Hazards Assessment partners that we're working with on the biomonitoring and the indoor-outdoor sound and air pollution studies from UC Berkeley, and CARB, I think, just funded. I don't know if they have an active player in there. But Ned, nobody has a history and a baseline and a graph arc of pollution for Stockton because nobody ever collected that data. So we're really at the beginning of this. I hate to say this is kind of as good as it gets, but you are right. We should collect this data and justify why we did this. We're very much teaching California how to do its mobile source pollution monitoring and address it. It's kind of been guessing at mobile pollution for a long time.
Yeah, and this is Stephanie. I'll echo what Matt's saying in terms of what is in the request for proposal or RFP. Obviously, we want to seek out opportunities to kind of understand the impacts and see how there are impacts as related to our community air monitors. But kind of as Matt's saying, in the RFP, there's, we're not really looking to start up a whole study kind of with the time period we have with the funding that we have. It wasn't a requirement in the RFP to start up a whole new air monitoring study or anything like that. So I'll just kind of say that in terms of what was in the request for proposal.
Stephanie, I think we have a lot of history of this being fundamental, number one. Number two, it'd be good to see an evaluative report from the Air District on the response to the RFP, an evaluative report from the scientists at the San Joaquin Valley Air Pollution Control District too, along with the details.
I'm hearing a lot of, this is Stephanie again, it's 5 right now and I want to be respectful of folks' evenings. I'm hearing a lot of requests to see the RFP, which we are happy to distribute. We did share a high level in that presentation that you saw, but it sounds like folks do want to see the actual document that was submitted, so we can share that out. Just in terms of maybe next steps, I'm wondering, we'd love to share out the RFP and then some of these materials that HiFi Design has shared with us as well, and just give folks the time to process and digest. I know we talked about a lot of things today, and I'm wondering how it lands for folks if we send out potentially a survey after folks have had a chance to really review the materials to see how they want to proceed kind of next steps. And I'm just thinking if folks do feel good about the proposals and kind of want to move forward with it, we can kind of bring it to the CSC as next steps. However, if folks do want to continue talking about it, we can hold another subcommittee meeting if that's kind of the wish of the CSC. And so I'll just see if that's landing for folks and pass over to Margot and Matt who have their hands up.
Hi, yeah, this is Margot. I would like this subcommittee to talk about it again before it goes to the CSC. I think we need a clearer picture. I would like to see us meet again in 2 weeks. I don't know if that's a doable thing. I don't know if that's too much for people, but I don't see a reason to wait a month to review the. I mean, RFPs are usually quite tedious to get through, but to review it, I think 2 weeks should be enough, and then there would be questions and can be assessed a little further. What do you think?
Can maybe get reactions to Margot's suggestion? Thumbs up, thumbs down. Seeing a thumbs up from Ned. Thumbs up from Cynthia, thumbs up from Mary Elizabeth. Matt, I want to pass it over to your team. You brought a lot of folks over. Does that sound doable for your team?
Yeah, I think sort of chat, I saw some in the chat that we'd be happy to do a breakdown of the proposal and provide more detail. And we can spend less time on sort of the philosophical underpinnings on where we focused our design. And then my question was, were there any other applicants, and is there anyone else who has right of access to planting public trees in the AB 617 study area?
Hey, Matt, this is
I don't
David.
know.
No, we only received the one application for both programs from Matt's group. And I just want to get confirmation from Matt if he's okay with us sharing his proposals. Just want to make sure he's okay with that. Normally, whenever we receive an application, it is not considered public record until we've executed the contract. Obviously, this is a little different since this is the subcommittee meetings, but I just want to make sure Matt's okay with it.
Generally, I thought these were always public, but I'll punt to Hyphy, who, shares, their research. And so I don't know if you guys have anything proprietary that you consider an IP.
Yeah, I mean, I think obviously the RFPs are fine to share. And what we might do is we might just have like the recording of the presentation. And if that's okay, we can share the recording.
Sweet.
Okay.
So we're looking at a calendar.
Stephanie, on mute.
Awesome. I was just going to say, I think given our schedule, I'm going to take a look at our schedule, and maybe I hear it not a month, but maybe in the next two or 3 weeks or so, in the next couple of days, we'll share out all the materials that, that folks are comfortable sharing, and Hyphy design, anything that you might have, Matt, your proposal or what you want to share regarding that. And we'll plan to have a follow-up subcommittee meeting to further discuss this. I also wonder if folks, I think what might also help Matt and his team bring the best materials and be the most prepared, if folks have questions that they want to pose, I think in our email that will follow up to this, we'll just kind of prompt folks, if you have questions, please send them our way, and we're happy to pass that along to Matt. That way, if need be, they're prepared with all the right answers, and they bring all the right people to this meeting as well.
Yeah, thanks, Stephanie. That makes a lot of sense. And I think to like Miguel and Katya, there's not enough money in this measure to really jumpstart the full AB 617 study area. And we have a budget that has some question mark measures that may or may not get implemented on time, and may or may not have been a good idea in the first place. And a reallocation of budgets has been a conversation that we've sort of had in the stuttering way for the past few years. I know that'll be a total pain in the butt to change this proposal, but trees are an investment in our community, and I would certainly speak up for growing the amount of funding that we have for investment in Stockton and to plant trees, which are what was it, Ned? An unambiguous good? Man, I wish Taylor was here. He'd have written that down.
Something to consider. With that, does anyone have any last questions? James, you're coming in very glitchy.
Yeah, I just have a chime in for a second. Brent, who's the founder of Hyphy Design Lab, I just noticed that you. Sorry.
James, I can't quite hear you. I don't know if anyone
Brent
can.
was on the call. He's
I
the
can't
founder.
hear
He's
him.
now,
I have a question.
I think he was trying to
I'll
pull
let
in
him
Brent.
chime in if he's available. Just to,
Yeah. Go ahead, Miguel. Let's do it while we got some radio. Oh, I'm sorry,
I just-
Katya.
Oh, yeah, go Katya.
yeah, if
you guys
Brent's
figure it out.
available, he can chime in.
Hi, James. I'm so sorry. You're coming in a little bit choppy, but I heard that maybe Brent, feel free if you want to make any kind of responses or last comments before we end the meeting, feel free to.
No, I'd like to hear from other community members if they had any input. I just wanted to say I was excited to see all the work happening, and we are very interested in all the health study and doing about 3 or 4 other health studies. So we'd love to share that information and the data we have with the folks who are particularly interested in that. I was going to say we could do a session for everyone, or if there's just a few people that are, very particularly interested in the health research, we're very involved and would love to share what we're doing in a number of places. So we can also send around a recording, as James was saying, that includes some of our health work.
Thanks so much, Brent. And yeah, we're going to send out whatever materials Hyphae sends to us. If health studies and what they're doing is your interest, feel free to let us know and we'll pass that along. And I think use that time appropriately in our follow-up meeting. With that, it's 5:08. I want to give folks back their evening. And I know our interpreters actually, they're not requested past this. So thank you for staying a little extra, Kara. I'm going to drop in my email into the chat and feel free to let us know, but we're going to go ahead and follow up with the meeting and just the steps that we discussed, and that we'll share materials and schedule up a follow-up meeting.
I just want to point out, this is Margot, sorry, that our next CSC meeting is in 2 weeks as well. So that's February 1st. So
yeah.
I don't know if we can squeeze a meeting in before that.
Thanks, Margaret. I saw that, which is why I said maybe 2 or 3 weeks. Maybe we can catch before, or if we need to, we might, we could catch after that CSC meeting too. But yes, February 1st is our next meeting.
And how do I get involved more, like as in like actually sitting on this and getting our voice heard more? Because I feel like I am, like you say, we're just public. I feel like, I don't know if there's a better opportunity where I'd like to step in on and be able to be a voice for our community. And I feel that, you know, we're just the public. I don't know.
Yeah, we definitely
Miguel,
love what.
Sorry, you know what we need a community urban forestry council that actually champions these issues and has a formal relationship to the city and advocates for equity across urban forests. This RFP was designed after like a 24-month ritual. How long did we all shout at each other? Forever.
Yeah.
But there was no entity that could tackle a project this size. So it really is capacity building for, to Mary's question, a really constant stream of funding in urban greening from Natural Resources Agency, California Forestry and Fire, and the State Transportation Agency. So
thank you.
residents with buy-in get funded.
And, you know, if there's anything that we can do, for example, we'd love to see a tree Stockton Foundation, similar to like how Davis, Fresno, Bakersfield, we're ready. There's a neighborhood ready to go to help just build and start working. So hopefully that could be something just to think about.
Thanks, Miguel. And thanks everyone for joining. We appreciate all of your time and hope you have a lovely evening, and we'll see you soon. Thanks, Kara.